Hey, you guys, welcome back to church. For those that have forgotten about me because I haven't introed in so long, it's your boy Jason. Welcome back. Super pumped to have you guys. No, I'm just kidding. I loved the last 3 episodes, Warren, where we were talking about Bitcoin. We were trying to help people maintain their value, right? Store their value. If you listen to those episodes, if you haven't, go back and do it. If you have, you know that we believe that Bitcoin is the best way to store your value across time.
Come on.
And so as we were talking about those things, like what does that look like? Well, Bitcoin, everybody calls it the blockchain, but it's actually called the time chain. We store our value across time. And so it just seemed appropriate. It's just been on Warren's heart. It's something that I care about greatly. What is time? What does it mean to you? What's the value of time? How do you approach how you spend your time? There's just so many ways. And I guess every category that we've ever talked about could have been about how to better spend your time, how to improve your time, how to dedicate your time to the Lord, and really dive into that, what that looks like in terms of a faith walk, many different things. So much like you did for me for the Bitcoin episodes, Warren, I'm excited to kick this to you. You said specifically before we started talking, time has been on your heart. Like it's just been a topic where like it's maybe burning inside you and all those things. So episode 40, can't believe we made it.
Woo-hoo.
It's incredible.
Man.
You know what? Here I'm sitting here thinking this could be episode 41. I don't remember, to be honest with you. It's like I don't know. But we're in the 40s for sure. Warren, man, how has time been percolating in your brain?
Ooh. Man, it's just something that's just been like on my heart as I get older. I'm approaching my birthday here at the end of December. And I mean, with every year, I'm just thankful for the time that God has given me on earth, you know, to make an impact and make a difference. The older you get, the less you value stuff and you value like experiences and time and what you get to experience with people. And so it's funny you said, I think this is the 41st episode.
Yeah, it might be.
So
I'm not keeping track of our time very well.
If I rewind all the way back to the beginning of 2024, when we were in like pre-launch stage, when we were just, we were just like putting things together and say, this is the idea. Remember when this was just like a thought, you know?
Yeah.
And
this was 2 conversations over dinner.
2 conversations. We're both professionals. We both got busy lives going on. And we're like, how do we fit this in? When are we going to do this? How are we going to record? And we were just in a season where we were best friends. We're in the same state, 2 different cities, but it was nothing to get together, to go out to dinner, to go this. And then I go to Tennessee. Right. And now we're separated by hour. Right. We're in 2 different time zones. Right. And, we're about 12, 13 hours away from each other. And we decided to launch this. Right. And I had something major going on in my life at the time. And I was thinking, man, do I really have the time to dedicate to this? And I go back to what you told me, because we were so motivated, and then this thing happened. You're like, oh, well, let's just push it. Let's just wait till it's a better time. And you're like, no, let's just do it. Let's do it now while we can. Let's just launch it and put whatever effort we can into it. And from that point to today, with over 400,000 subscribers, and what God has done, right? I'm so glad that we made the decision to move forward. And so time's been on my heart, because sometimes we think we can delay things because we may have another opportunity. And many times in life, when I thought I'd circle the wagon on something, like I'd go back to it, life has a way of not allowing you to go back and do something that you were supposed to do, or maybe you felt led to do. And so I've learned to take inventory of those things that I've passed up on. Was I really supposed to pass up on them? Because if they come back to mind, it may be God speaking to you that maybe it's time that you move forward with it. Maybe it's time that you do it, right? And so time's been on my heart, because there's been some things that I just haven't done. And this is one of the miracles that have happened in my life. Like, we were so close to being like, let's just delay it 6 months. Let's just wait till this in my life calms down. Just wait till, till I have more available time, and just fit it in. And so I'm just, as the year's coming to an end, I'm looking where we started, where we are, and those things that you feel like you don't have room for, make space, make space, give up something, lessen your screen time to do that thing that is on your heart. You as a creative, Jason, I know there are projects and things that are floating around in your brain that you probably have written down and like, okay, I'll get back to that. That's a great idea. I'll get back to that. Right. But this also started off on a napkin in a restaurant, and it wasn't, lowercase church, the podcast. It was lowercase church, the building, or lowercase church, the location, or it evolved into what it is today. But it started off as an idea, and how it grew was we stayed connected to God and we devoted time to it. We talked about it. We started planning it out. And so whatever you put your time on, it will grow. And it works in both ways, both positive and negative and neutral. There's some things we can do with our time that don't bring us anything, right? And there's some things that cause negative, right? And there's some things that grow. And so I think it's just valuable to take a moment and just readjust how we look at time, how we feel about it, and how we go about it. So my focus for the day, if you don't get anything else out of this podcast, is that if you're a person who is just haphazardly going through life, and maybe you have a list of goals and you have, some things you want to do, but you can be honest with yourself and say over the past 60 days, you've just taken your sweet time and you haven't really locked in to do something. Don't take for granted that you don't know how much time you have to do that one thing. There may just be an allotted time or a season for it, and you may miss it if you don't responsibly be a good steward of your time. So
that's real. That's real.
So Jason, what is it like in your life? Because time management, man, we can talk about it all day. I mean, when you have the amount of kids we do,
that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like time management, right? So I feel like you have a little bit more going on in your life this year, just because, campus pastor, you're leading a department, you're extremely active in the church. Your kids get amazing time with you. You've cultivated a great marriage. All these different things take hours, not fly by night intentions, right? They take, dedication. And so how do you view your time, and then how do you decipher it? How do you, cause you get a pickup game in there every now and then.
I do.
So, so I'm like, man, I'm like, Jason, you're all over the place. Like
that's the grace of my wife right there. Knowing how important that both the physical part, working out, all those things, like if I can get a pickup basketball game in occasionally, like that's awesome and it's valuable. And she knows how much I love it. So it's like, that works for me. You know what I mean? The truth is, what would I say? The thing that I end up sacrificing most of the time, whether this is good, bad, or indifferent, the truth of what I usually end up sacrificing is sleep. So,
okay.
And I think that's okay that's kind of the season of life that I'm in.
Yeah.
Is like that. That's part of what so you're talking about spending time with kids, and I want to make sure I do that. Even now with the ministry stuff, some nights I get home later. And by the way, I'm thankful to say that at this point in my life, I don't think I've ever been busier, but I've also never been more, maybe this is an encouragement for somebody. I've never been more satisfied, more humbled by the opportunities that I've gotten. I've not enjoyed a career or a calling more than I have right now. So for me,
that's powerful.
Yeah, the time is actually like the cost of sleep or whatever that ends up being, or the cost of rest. Sometimes I'm totally cool. Okay, my wife and I've talked about it before in our life. We want to leave it all on the field.
Okay.
Right. Like we want to pour ourselves out. And then at the end of the day, our time for the most part should be about others. Right. even if it's each other, like about other people. Like I don't want to make my time about myself, because the really interesting thing that happens, I think, when you focus on yourself in terms of your time, the selfishness can creep in.
Yeah.
The loneliness then begins to creep in.
Okay.
Like, I think that's where negative thoughts get a stronghold. I think that's where negative speak starts coming from, like just the emptiness, like trying to gain rest, but it's not peaceful, those kind of things. So I don't want to spend too much time on myself, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, but what does that mean? It means I want more time to pour my life out. So for instance, being on the health journey I'm on now, I'm grateful to say that, I'm down something like 25 pounds.
Come on, let's go.
If you go back and look at some of those older episodes, you might be able to see a difference,
Yeah.
But the thing I've noticed is, like, I used to be like, oh man, it's going to be a lot of time and energy to do this thing. The truth is, like, actually, it's just a focus. It doesn't take any extra time to eat healthy versus not healthy.
Yep.
If that makes sense. The way that I want to spend my time is for others, and the ability to like teach in the classroom and do ministry and like spend time with others is like the best way I feel like I could spend my time. So maybe this is like this is our humble brag episode for me. Like how I'm spending my time right now, I feel like is most effective.
Yeah.
Or most rewarding for me. I certainly can speak to times when I didn't feel like my time was used well. And that was partially like there were previous workplaces or jobs where I just was like, man, is this what I want to do? God, is this what you're calling me to? Is this a valuable use of my time? And I think it was, because you're taking care of your family, you're providing. But man, there's probably so many people I think I can identify with that, is like a majority of your time is typically, for most people, spent at a job.
Yep.
Right. Whether that, by the way, that job could be stay-at-home mom too. But like if you're in the workplace and you're making money and you're like working to provide for a family or build up a family, or whether you're single and you're just trying to build a life, your time ends up being spent at work. Like there's a huge amount of time outside of your sleep. It's a high percentage at work for most people.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Hopefully your job's rewarding, but if it's not, then it ends up being this real challenge of like, you're so focused on the 4 hours, right? The 4 or 5 hours you'll get at night that are outside of your work, that are right before you go to bed. All of a sudden it's like, like if you're at a miserable job, the thing you think about the most is vacation. But if you enjoy your job, I have found, like, I don't mind thinking about my job or talking about those things or kind of like, reminiscing on that while on vacation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I have to escape my job. Vacations are great. Trips with my kids are awesome. Spending time with family on trips. We went to Florida, went to Outer Banks in North Carolina this past summer, and it was great. But I didn't feel like I had to escape my life. It was just additive to my life, right? Oh. It's when you spend your time well, you don't have to escape how you're spending your time.
Oh.
And so maybe that's my message to people on this episode, is like, how are you spending your time? Can I just tell you guys, like, you have the ability to change how you're spending your time.
Come on.
You just work toward a goal. Now, it might not be immediate. So I went to grad school for 3 years in order to be able to get the opportunity to teach in this program and so on and so forth. So for 3 years, I was at a job that I wasn't sure was my calling, but like I was in grad school working toward what I felt like might be my calling, because my heart was just, like that feeling your heart sings a little louder. Intuitively, it's almost like in your gut, like God puts that in you, that you're like, oh, this is how the time should be. Right. So maybe you're at a job that's like bumming you out, and you go to the gym and you're like, man, it isn't even working out that's making my heart sing. It's when I see that one guy or gal that needs help, and then I'm like, hey, have you tried this? And it changes their workout. Or I meet up with my buddies and we talk about a small business plan, but you're really nervous. You're so nervous because, man, that's going to require capital, and how are we going to get it? And we're going to worry. Here's the thing about worrying. You could talk yourself out of a better way to spend your time. And so maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
Go do the thing. I had a bunch of kids at home, most of them little, when I was in grad school. And most people say that's crazy. The truth is, it was just the time to do it.
Yeah.
Like, why would we wait?
Yeah.
Like you had talked about with this podcast, like, is there a better time than the present?
Yeah.
Like, what are you waiting on?
What do you wait on?
And typically, I think we wait on like a perception from outside of us, positive or negative. Ready? Hey, I'm going to wait until I'm in way better shape to record myself, put myself on YouTube, because I don't think it'll be effective if I'm not in better shape and people are more like attracted to what I look like. Well, what if we waited? We'd be waiting 2 years for me to get in like way better shape because I was making bad choices before with my eating. So it is what it, like, if we had waited, we would have jammed ourselves up. On the positive, sometimes you wait, you talk yourself out of it. Cause like, man, I don't know how we're going to do that. Like, I don't know, man, like allow God to dream with you a little bit.
Come on.
Like, what's he putting on your heart? Because if he's putting something on your heart, but you're like, God, I don't have enough money to go back to school for that. I don't have enough resources. I don't know how I'm going to do that with kids and a wife. I don't know. God's like, I know. Do you trust me?
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what I'm saying. A real key, like, do you trust God with your time?
It's good.
Or are you reliant on yourself? Because that's a hard road. Like, that is a much harder road, in my opinion. So time management is important. You do have to pick. So for instance, I didn't go to grad school for graphic design while simultaneously going to get my doctorate in brain surgery, while also trying to build rocket ships to the moon, while also trying to create the next Apple or Tesla or Facebook, right? Like, I didn't go out there and try to do every idea I've ever had. Like, I want to be a comic book artist, but also an astronaut, but like, people do these things where like, I'm going to be a pro athlete, but also a musician. And at the same time, I want to act in movies. But at the same time, how about this? I believe you run really hard toward one goal and get really good at one thing. And actually, this is a Van Gogh quote that he said that something, and I apologize to all the Van Gogh fans if I'm misquoting, but it's something along the lines of that he has found that if someone pursues and becomes a master of one thing, then they simultaneously become a master of many things.
Yeah.
What does that mean? So when you pursue one goal, well, like any sport, any art, any, you're making a YouTube channel. Well, can I tell you something? We've learned a lot about how microphones work.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot about how audio visual stuff works. We've had to learn how, like, well, how does our web connection work with this? What kind of schedule do we need to put it on? Hey, Warren, how do we write up the little blurb? Like, we got to become better writers.
Yeah.
We have to become snappier dressers.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to point out, first and probably last episode with a tie, no big deal. I have a lunch after this that I'm opening in prayer. But that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I went to school for graphic design, got my master's. And because of that, through God's plan, it opened up opportunities where now I'm not going to this lunch at the university today to talk about graphic design. I'm opening it in prayer.
Come on.
As the campus minister. So you don't know what opportunities will open up, but because I had forward momentum at one thing, it opened up opportunities for many things.
Yeah. And
so that's what I would encourage people with is like, so I know she's listening. If I can just do a quick shout out to my mom. Like,
what up, Mom?
Yeah. I am super excited for her because recently in her retirement, she has found a home church. Shout out to Manna Church in Newport News, Virginia. Yeah. So I've never attended. It seems cool. But man, she has found a place where she's pursuing actively and they are meeting her there with opportunity to get involved.
Okay.
So for instance, things I may not do, but I'm excited for her. She's in like the crochet club.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like they're doing stuff. She works in the church library that they have there. Okay. And it's like volunteer role.
Cool.
But yeah, like staying connected at church. She's talking to the pastor about opportunities at the church and things with, and I don't know how this will pan out and this will come out. She told me recently, but this is like, or we're a week or so behind, something like whatever, doesn't matter. I don't know if it'll pan out or not, but they're talking to her about helping with accounting stuff because that's what she did in her career.
Okay.
Right. So they're talking to her like, well, we need help like filling in databases and things because it's growing, right? But they need some help. Well, how about that? Like, all she did was go on a Sunday to a church that she either heard about or found locally, whatever it was. And then, man, now she's spending her time.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Yeah.
Like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, she didn't know how this is going to pan out. You just have to go. And so how are you spending your time? Are you waiting and waiting and waiting for the perfect moment? Because the truth is, let's say an Olympic runner was nervous.
Yeah.
And the perfect moment for him to run is when he's done being nervous. Well, hey man, that gun that starts the race, it just sounded like 10 minutes ago. In fact, the race is over, but you haven't started running because you're nervous. No, you got to go when the opportunity's there, man.
Yeah.
Like there, and guess what? You don't know how the race will pan out, but like you have to run it.
Yeah.
You have to run the race. So that's how I want to spend my time, is like, I think I'm doing my best. And I used to spend a lot of time daydreaming about the future and planning it. And like, okay, God, I'll handle this part. And I'll do, what if we did this, God? And all that, you know, and I'm super done with that. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of time, and it distracts from what you're currently doing, but it's pursuing what you're currently doing that will open up the other opportunities in other areas that you don't even expect. Right? God gave you a passion. He's not going to deny that when you walk into doing what he has for you. It's going to be better than you imagine. So that's how I want to spend my time.
Wow.
Less daydreaming, more day doing. That's not a thing. But anyway.
More day doing. I like that.
Yeah, more day
That's
doing.
good. That's good.
So
I like that, man. So so a couple pieces there you added in there. I want to either add on to or unpack a little bit more. You talked about that just as let's just use America, just as Americans, we spend a great deal of our time at work. Right. We spend a ton of time at work. So if you don't like what you do, it's you may find yourself dreaming of vacation, dreaming of what you really would like to do. Right. And you may just be wasting time if you're not trying to make a way forward, and it may not change overnight. Right. And I think a lot of people get stuck in survival mode. I got to do this to pay the bills. So they're not thriving. They're just surviving. And therefore they kind of lose that zeal for life. And they kind of lose that zeal for God, because they may start to blame God for a situation that they've created or a situation that they've accepted, right? Because if you're not changing it, you've accepted it, right? And so I like how you kind of brought that out. A twist to that is, and I think as rightly as important, is that the people we spend time with is a key thing.
Oh, yeah.
The people we spend time with, because the people we spend time with can also be vampires of our energy, vampires of our dreams and goals, vampires of our time in itself. And so, or these people can promote us. They can push us into greatness. They can challenge us into greatness. So I think it's almost just as important as a career or a job is. Even more important is, who are you hanging around? Because I honestly believe the people that you place in your life, they will call things out of you that you have settled on, and they'll be like, you know what, you're better than that. But if you have people that if you're the most successful person in your group, they're never going to call you on you're in a career and you're unhappy, and we see it, and they'll never call you on it because you're the most successful person. You're the top dog in the group, right? But if you're in a group and you got people you're equally yoked with, you got people who you can look up to, who can give you advice, different ages in your circle. You know, like older people are good for just saying for just going with it, you know? I got the over 40 card, and it's just like, I'm gonna tell you, you know, like,
right.
I don't know.
We don't have time to waste. Yeah. There's no time to waste, man. You can't you're not going to mince words, because you're like, what if I don't get to say it?
Yeah. You're just like
direct, did I just not do it? Yeah.
So these people, just, you know, the people you surround yourself around, it's your choice. Don't be a victim of your environment. You chose the environment. You chose to be there. Right. And so people think they're stuck in environments. The one thing you don't get to choose is your family. You know, your mother, your brother, your sisters, your uncles, everybody else. You get to choose your friends. You get to choose your mate. Right. You don't get to choose your kids. I mean, you have them, but they come, they're them. That's right. But you get to mold them a little bit, right? You get to mold them. They're like clay, right? A little bit. You get to mold them, right? So if your environment isn't conducive to challenging you or bringing the best out of you, you might want to examine that. Just like a career or job, right? Because some people come into our life, you know, for different seasons and different reasons, and some people come just for temporary positions, and we've hired them on permanent party. You know,
Ooh, okay.
Some people just came. They were just supposed to be here for one one season, and we're like, no, stay for winter, summer again, and you're like, and instead of moving life forward, you continue to replay the same records because you refuse to let go of some things that you are outgrowing, right? And they cause strife in their life. I've been there, and I've struggled with it, and I've just learned the good and goodbye.
Okay.
You know? And it's just a part of life. If you haven't said goodbye in a while, I guarantee you have a closet full of people who probably need to go their own way. Yeah. You know, you're holding on to everybody doesn't come to stay. And if you're a hoarder of people, a hoarder of relationships take time, and you can't nurture all of them. You just can't. They will take up all your time, right? You ever been attached to a relationship that just drained you, and you're like, I don't. I don't know if I should keep this one. I don't know if I should. You know, some people you can help them for a season, but you're not there to help them for a lifetime. And so, I just think that people are something we have to manage with our time.
Yeah, I think of like the first thing I thought of was like you hear story after story of famous athletes, right? Mm-hmm. So NBA player, NFL player, all of a sudden they're successful, so they're kind of an object, right? But how many times have you heard like, man, their entourage is just like clinging? Oh, you got a call?
Sorry about that.
Is that a famous athlete giving a call? No. So we got athletes reaching out now. They're like, hold on, wait a second. So, no, you're good. Do we need to pause real quick?
Yeah, pause this real quick. Oh my goodness, sorry about that.
No, you're good. We'll be back right after this, folks. All right, guys. So we're back. Shout out to the moms in the world. Sometimes they do phone calls mid-podcast. No big deal.
Jump in.
Yeah. So speaking of time with people, but that's what we were saying was you hear story after story of like a famous person, right? That these like hangers on. Well, like somehow I have always wondered, like, why don't they let those people go? And the ones in an unhealthy way, they'll say like, well, but that's my people. That's where I came from.
Ooh.
And you're like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that's where you're going.
Yeah.
That's where you came from. That's correct. Yeah. And if they haven't like joined you on the journey, if they're just hanging on and not flying with you, like, you know, they're riding your coattails. They're not like keeping pace with you. That's actually one thing that I really thought was cool about with LeBron James and Maverick Carter and these guys were like, you know, they grew up together.
Yep.
They stayed successful together. And I'm sure LeBron's success aided them financially, but man, like Rich Paul, Maverick Carter, they were doing things on their own.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I'm going to take this and let it propel. So it wasn't like riding coattails. It was like, we're matching your energy as best we can, but it's not a necessity that you take care of us for all eternity.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying is like, for some friendships, man, you know, like you talked about the social vampires, like, you know, those people that like, they want from you. And I think we've talked about this before, emotional piggy bank. Like they're just withdrawing from that emotional piggy bank, but they're not making any deposits. Like you're spending time with them out of care and concern, but like at the end of the day, you're going to exhaust yourself.
Yeah.
And they need to seek God for that, by the way. If they just want to make withdrawals, well, God has an infinite emotional money bank where he cares for us, loves us. And that's the benefit.
Yeah.
If you're doing that to people, that is not the way you want to be spending your time. So if that's you if you recognize that behavior on the flip side, I'm not calling you out. I'm just suggesting maybe review your behavior because you're going to lose friendships. You're not going to have people to spend time with because you will burn somebody out so bad that they'll give up. Like I have had to loosely, lightly abandon relationships occasionally because you're just like, man, this is all give, nothing back. And I don't have time. Like if it's not edifying me, then it is negatively impacting the other relationships in my life because maybe I feel tired or like I'm just sad because all I hear about is sad things. And you're like, at some point I'm like, I would love to bear the burden of this all the time.
Yeah.
And I do my best to, but boy, it would be nice if on the flip side, like at some point we get past the burden and it becomes additive to my life and not subtracting, right?
Yeah.
Like you're adding to my life, not subtracting. So you and I go through stuff sometimes, like in our lives, we're able to talk to each other or challenge each other. And like in the moment, if you let yourself get emotional, you could be like, well, that's subtracted from me. I just want somebody to tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Right. But then it's additive long term because you're like, man, this person loves me enough to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
So the next time something happens, I can trust you will tell me the truth. And so that's there's nothing more powerful than truth. Like, dude, we talked about that. Shout out episode 35. But
dude, that just brought back a great, I mean, you hit on a great point there that we practically live through, right? It's so important that you be selective about the people that you place in your life and what presidents they have, right? Like, so we have this friendship. We're not just do a podcast. Me and Jason are like best friends. Like, we bounce things off each other and we do life together. Like, our families know each other. We've been through some ringers. So I had a very serious thing happen in my life, like just serious thing happened in my life. And Jason was like, all right, man. Okay. Not frazzled. He let me bear the emotion of the situation, but he was my equilibrium. Like, okay, this is challenging. Okay. This is going to be painful, but God's still in control. I know you're feeling it. And he would say things and at times we'd have conversations. He would be like, hey, man up, man. Come on. Like, come on. You're Warren Brown, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. And I remember one of the significant things you taught me really, really changed my perspective. Like, I wanted to just keep circling the wagon. I mean, this was like months into this situation. You were like, hey, man, are we ready to move forward? Are we done? In essence, I forgot how you said it, but in essence, you was like, you know what? Let's not talk about this anymore. It is what it is. It's happened. What are you going to do about it? Like, what's next? He's like, and you were like, man, I don't want to be insensitive, but what are we doing next, man? Like, what else what else do we have to talk about? What else can we go in a different direction? And that kind of woke me up. It kind of kicked me out of my, oh yeah. Yeah. If you'd just been like, what people say is a good friend, like just a listening ear, man, you'd heard it all before. You knew all about it. Nothing had changed. And you were like, you know what? I think it's time to put this to bed. It's time to go ahead and, flush the fish. It's dead. And,
I mean, and there's something to, like, I don't know, this might be my personality. So I apologize to the people listening if they're like, whatever. To me, there's something about like, when you talk about something enough that needs to change or that needs action and you don't do anything, at some point, there's something about my personality where in like a loving way, I hope, I'm like, yeah, I don't believe you. You're like, man, I really want to. And by the way, this is true of me too. Like, man, I really want to make that change. Like, man, this really bothers me. Oh, how about that? This thing is bothering me. Okay. Yeah. Second phone call. This thing's bothering me. Third phone call. This thing is really bothering. Now it's way worse. This is bothering me.
Yeah.
You get to like the 12th phone call, and this isn't true of you, but I'm saying there's somebody in somebody's life right now. This wasn't true. Like we didn't do. It wasn't 12. It was like, I didn't wait because we have trust in each other. Right. So, but like you're on like, let's say the 50th phone call with that sibling, with that friend who's like, I just need a good listener. Like you said, as a good friend. If they're saying they want to change and you can't say to them, well, hey, like, have you considered this? Like the change that you could make?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, no, not that. Okay. After a while, I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't think, do you want to change this, or is the drama of this moment helping define your value as a person?
Yeah.
And so let that go. That negative thing that's helping define who you are, like, why?
Why?
Because that's not what God says about you. And so I think that was the approach I took with you in the things that you go through, or like my friends and things they go through. At some point, I'm like, do you want to change it?
Yeah.
Because by the way, in fairness to you, you could have easily been like, well, no, I don't want to change it, and not say it just like that. I'm saying like with the following statements, you could have been like telling me, well, no, I don't really want to change it. I just want to talk about it. And let's say like complain about it. I just want to complain. So many people like, because it makes you feel like you're doing the work.
Yeah.
In fact, this is a psychological thing. We've talked about this before too. When people talk about weight loss, they get the same mental chemistry as if they began the weight loss journey. So the problem is people will say like, I'm going to go work out now. And then a year later, people will be like, I thought you were going to work out. Yeah, man. Like I talked about it and I just never, because you get the same mental benefits. So if you're going to do something, sometimes just do it.
Just do it.
Don't even talk about it. Like go be about it. And then once you're about it already, you're going to do it. That's when, it'll prompt conversation because you don't have to talk about it.
That's good.
I'm losing weight right now. I don't have to talk to people about it. People will come up to me and be like, man, looking good or whatever. Like people that, and I know I'm posting it on social as accountability, but the really interesting thing that's happened is people have taken it well in terms of like, it's not about me. I'm not spending my time hoping you'll focus on me. The truth is I'm talking about it out loud. So maybe you'll feel brave talking about it out loud. Ooh. You would be surprised how many people have reached out and been like, I'm ready to start mine.
Come on.
I'm going to do mine now because like I see you and somehow my doing it and being at the place I was where I'm heavy and I'm getting healthier now, right? I'm overweight and now getting back to an appropriate weight, those kind of things. This is challenging people through my action, through my activity. And so it took, 60 days, right? But I've noticed over the last 10 days, today's like day 67 or 68. Like starting at day 40 or so, right? A month in, people are starting to be like, at church, I see you, man. At school, hey, I see what you're doing. Like, keep going. Or, man, I'm thinking about doing it now too. You got me thinking about it, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you're because you live your life, you put things on other people's radar. You know what that's called? Good use of your time.
Come on.
Right? You go out there and get active. You go be a part of your community. You go help people build up their lives. That is important.
Yeah.
Like that's a good use of time.
Great use of time.
Yeah. So that anyway, thank you for receiving the ways that I am a friend to you sometimes. Like in truth. But no, listen, there's been a lot of friendships where like either me or my wife, we as a couple, like we no longer have some of those because sometimes you bring people the truth or you like open their eyes to what they're actually doing. They're just out.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not here for that level of accountability. And Delia and my wife and I have no idea how to live without accountability for people or like just to like let you live and do the wrong thing over and over. Cause I guess maybe you have to tell me, this could be selfish of us. At some point, we're like, hey, man, this is wearing me out. Like, do you want to change this thing or not? Because if you don't, that's fine. But like, we're not the people to talk to about it, probably. Like, you're not interested in change because we're feelers, man, like deeply. And so we like really feel the pain you're going through. And so we want to help change that thing. Like, oh, you really don't like that relationship? Have you talked to them about this? Right? Because if you haven't, then like, I don't know why you're talking to me about it. Why you're not talking to that person? Why are you talking to me about that person? So you have this goal in mind, like go, man.
Get it
like,
done.
Go do it. I know it's hard. Go do it anyway. Maybe God's putting it on your heart. So your time is what is the time is of the essence, man.
Of the essence. It is.
Like your time is running out. It is going quicker than you think. This is not meant to scare anybody. This is meant to say like, if you have something you want to do, now would be a good time.
Now's a good time.
Right? In fact, it's not going to offend me at all if you pause this podcast, if you never come back to it, but you go do that thing that you're like, I need to go do it.
Yeah.
So like, ready, 3, 2, 1.
Go do it. Just do it.
Go do it, man. Boom. You're already doing it. We've already lost them.
Yep.
No, it's just me and you talking now. Because they're going to do that thing.
Nike don't hit us with a strike. I'm just saying.
Don't do
You should sponsor us, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, don't do it. No big deal. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like get out there and go.
That's the piece, right? That's the piece that connects to time, right? Being able to not only be that kind of person, be that kind of friend, to not let people stay around you and waste time. Like the Bible says there's a time for everything. It's a time to laugh, a time to cry, a time to grieve. And sometimes you need people to help you move life forward. You need people to remind you that, hey, got it. That happened. Yeah, okay, got it. How long are we going to do this? You know,
right.
How long are we going to, you know, I love you, but how long are we going to? And we've been able to kind of bounce those situations off each other because you've went through things in your career and different movements. And you're like, I don't know, like it was like, let's just move. Let's end the moving forward, not wasting the time because we can ruminate about what happened and what are we going to do and why this didn't work. Right. when God's like, move forward. What I have is better for you. This didn't work out. I have something better for you. So I think that having people that you can trust who can hold you accountable, right? Hold you accountable for how you're spending your time, how you're using it, right? Can ward you away from deep depressions and looking back over 2024 and being like, I didn't tick anything off my goal chart. Like I didn't, people who will challenge you on things like, hey, you said you were going to do this. Or you 2 years ago, you said you were going to stop doing that. Why those types of things to be like, man, I need to have points in my life where people can call me out on stuff. I went a significant amount of time in my life where I was self-governed, and I'm a pretty good governor, good.
Yeah.
But when you self-govern, there's some things that you miss. It's like the really, really hard things. It's the things that you don't think are that detriment to your development. And you may have discipline in some areas, but if you don't have anybody to hold you accountable, those things that you don't think are big deals that do have an effect in your life, you'll never move forward off of them if no one can call you out. And you waste time. You don't move life forward. You waste time dealing with the same thing over and over again if you don't have people who can, lovingly make you angry enough to move.
Yeah, I want to pull, if you'll allow me, I want to pull something out of your playbook. So this is a Warren Brown move that now 40 episodes in or so I've picked up. So you do this sometimes in the episodes, and I want to do that. I just had this thought. I want to talk to a group of people. So sometimes this is a Warren. He'd be like, you know what? I want to talk to those people right now. There are a group of people I want to talk to right now about something you just said. So if we're talking about this thing, ways to use your time better, ways to spend time with people in a more wholesome, effective, honest way, and you're sitting there thinking, oh man, I know that relationship that I need to do that. I know that person or that opportunity has come up and I haven't taken it because you feel like you can't be honest with that friend. And I'm talking about specifically about friendships because they're so important. Like family, I understand sometimes difficult conversations may have to pause because like, do you want to destroy Thanksgiving dinner today? Those kind of things. Like you manage that over time, potentially. For friendships where you're getting to choose those things, like how valuable is a friendship if you can't tell them the truth? I would just ask that. And I'm not saying abandon ship. I am not suggesting for a moment that people are not valuable and worth time and we shouldn't give them the opportunity to edit their behavior, potentially change their approach to life, how they're approaching this thing. Because maybe you challenge them one time, you think you can't be honest, and then they're like, you know what, man, I have been doing the wrong things. I have been approaching this the wrong way. Thank you for talking to me. But if you think you can't be honest with somebody, I would just challenge how valuable is this friendship? Because I think a key factor in friendship is being able to tell the truth. And I, for one, have occasionally clung to friendships where I feel like they can tell me the truth about their life, but I'm not sure I can tell them mine without losing their friendship. Okay. So then how valuable is that thing? Like, man, I hold some beliefs about religion, about relationship, about politics, about marriage, about, sex, money, entertainment. I hold opinions about all those things. My best friendships are the ones where I can share my honest opinion about those things. And even if it's not in full alignment with that person, they can at least hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they're not like, well, now you're not valuable. Right. And so if you have friendships like that, may I just challenge you, encourage you, push you towards developing friendships where you can be honest. It is so much more rewarding. It actually is additive to your other relationships because your energy level is going up. It makes you feel good to know that you can be honest and truthful with people. You don't have to hide. You don't have to feel alone. You don't need to be discouraged. I think a big key of that is like knowing where my source of joy and peace and comfort and inclusion comes from is like I get included in God's kingdom at the end of the day. So I don't have to seek those things in desperation in this life. But I see so many people seeking those facets of relationship, of friendship, of inclusion so dramatically, so drastically, so ardently. They're just going after it because they cannot find it in quality. So they seek quantity, and maybe it's not healthy.
Yeah.
Like if I get one more friend, maybe that'll be the one. If I just get one more friend, like, man, know where it comes from. And then you can like kind of slowly pick and choose the team that's around you. Like, be confident in who you are and who God's made you to be. And then you can add to who you know you are because you can recognize, right? It's like, man, if you call it a glow or a scent or like just that thing you recognize in somebody where you're like, man, they seem to align with what I believe about myself. Because if you don't know what you believe, then you'll just seek out everything. And by the way, when you're doing that, you know how much time that takes? Like, I got to manage 800 relationships, none of which are deep to me. So it doesn't fulfill me. It doesn't deposit into my social piggy bank.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing myself out to be popular.
Yeah.
And I don't really care if I'm popular with these people.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine not seeking popularity. If that's you, relax. Like, think about what you're doing, because one or two great friends is better than the millions of empty relationships.
Come on.
So, and I really mean that. I've lived that out. I've lived out both sides of that, trying to seek. And that is not a way to spend your time. So time is about relationships. Time is also about money. That's an easy one. Buy Bitcoin. Don't do not that. But relationships is what time's about. Because, by the way, I believe if you spend your time like, I'm going to go off and live like a monastic lifestyle, live like a monk and like never interact with the world, I have no idea how that lines up with what Jesus called us to do.
Yeah. Nope.
Like,
we're relational.
Yeah, it's relational, right? Like, go out. Like, one charge as a Christian, go out and make disciples of all nations.
Yeah.
I mean,
that means you got to talk to people.
It's like, yeah, you got to go out.
You got to go meet people. You got
to go have relationships. So make it good ones, right? Yeah. Have relationships, or like, man, and I'm not saying you have to like dive deep with everyone. You can build relationships with people that is you depositing into their social piggy bank. But as long as you have those friends that can restore yours, it's okay. Right? So I can go make friends with somebody new at church, Warren, and I could have it be all about them. I could be like, man, you're awesome. Like I let me pray for you. I want to spend time and just like hear about your life. And maybe I'm not getting a ton out of it, but because I know I can go back to my wife or Warren, or shout out to the Harry Lovetts of the world. Like, there's people in my life where I can be like, you're adding to my life so that I can go out and be filled and add to other people's lives. And hopefully y'all's too. Like, ours is a two-way street. Some streets are one way, and I think that's okay. Because Jesus had 12 disciples and then spoke to 5,000. Yep. Well, like, honestly, I don't know what kind of relationships were built with the 5,000, right? They heard from him, he poured in, and then went away to rest. But he took his 12 boys with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, those were his dudes. So anyways, and by the way, those relationships weren't always easy.
They weren't.
If we can just continue that metaphor, like, Peter was like stubborn, man. He was a little hard-headed.
Oh yeah.
But also loyal to a fault and would do anything for you.
That one reckless friend.
Yeah, he's like that one friend that like, man, you're glad to have him on your team when it's time to like protect you, but like, hey man, you need to chill when we're just trying to get food. Like, you just need to relax when we're like, people are trying to talk to me, man. You don't need to bodyguard. So, but that's what I'm saying is like, relationships are foundational to our life and our time. So when you spend your time, I feel like we spent the first part of the episode talking about ourselves, like how do we build up ourselves? That's the other thing about time. I think time is about us, and time is about the relationships in our lives. So how are you spending your time at work? How you can pursue better things? The cool part is that does pour into the next part about relationships, because like, you figure out what your commitments are, you figure out what your beliefs are, and then you can align those things and find similar people with similar beliefs. Because this is the truth. Not everybody's going to believe what you believe ever. You'll never, ever, 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 ever find every single person you ever interact with that believes everything you believe.
And here's the thing. Here's the key.
Don't attempt that. Don't attempt it.
Here's the key. When you are aligning people in your life, don't try to find yourself in people. This is one mistake I think people make all the time, especially in Christians. Like people are on their journey, and I really enjoy people who are either brand new to Christ or not quite there. Like when someone says, I believe in God, I know there's a God. That gets me excited. I'm like, okay, you're good. You can get on the team. Why? Because I want you to experience someone who's walking with God, like without me trying to convince you that Jesus is real. Because if you just come along, you will see he's real. He'll start revealing himself. I think sometimes we run from these relationships because we're like, I'm like, you know what? It's good to have people in your circle who need to come to church. That's why God put you there. And sometimes we look for super Christians. Then this person may not be your best friend, but I think sometimes we throw these people aside, or we don't listen to them, or we think that we can't learn anything from them because they're on a different level in God. And you're like, well, you haven't been baptized yet? Gets me excited. Because I'm like, God, we're cooking. All right. Grown man here hasn't been baptized. I'm kind of etchy about, I go to church every now and then, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's talk. Let's rap.
That's right. And you pour in, and it adds value because it's like what it's going to do for their lives.
Yeah. Because you can kind of see when people when they're like unchurched, or their relationship, they'll tell you, I'm more of a spiritual person. Gets me excited because I'm like, okay. Because it gives you an opportunity. I'm like, I got a life that's so rich. You'd have to tell me to shut up about Jesus. Like, wait a minute. Let me give you example after example after example.
Yeah.
Here we go, And so it just gives you, I can see like they're missing something. It's like when they say it, it's like, oh, you're missing something.
Yeah.
Like, and I love it when you're just a part of the discovery, when you're like, okay, God, you're doing something. This conversation was on purpose.
Yep.
Because when Christians like get together, it goes two ways. Either iron sharpens iron, or we start talking about other Christians.
Right.
Either we're talking about the things of God, or we're talking about the church, or we're talking about what's not right. Some of it's either really productive or it's unproductive. And I've tried to find a middle ground, but my experience is, it's either we're really digging deep into the word, we're challenging each other, or we're distracted. We're complaining about politics or work or what the church is not doing. It's not a productive conversation. But when you're talking to someone who isn't quite there, doesn't speak the church lingo, hasn't really felt a move of God in their life, and you see they're on a journey, and they're like, and you're like, oh man,
you're like watching someone fall in love.
I'm here for a time like this. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's go. So don't lean into those opportunities to meet people like that. And because God has you there for a reason. And one thing that I love to do is to share the goodness of God and the miracle of Jesus and all that he's done for our lives. And that is never a waste of time. I mean, because you said this before, I'm gonna steal this from you, Jason, and I think you stole it from somebody else. So whoever it belongs to,
we're circling around.
Charge it to my head, not my heart, right? That if you share the love of Jesus with someone and they develop a relationship with the only true Savior of the universe, the creator of heaven and earth, you not only impact them, but you impact generations of their family.
Yeah.
Just the impact of that. Like, somebody's grandfather believed, so their father believed. Now their whole family believes. Like, it just compounds over, what could be hundreds of people, an entire family bloodline, who is living their life for Christ over one conversation.
Yep.
Force multiplier.
That's right. It's about how you spend your time. So the example I think of is last night. I'm at service, and there's nights where I'm like, man, our day started at 9 a.m. We had 500 students from Halifax County, shout out, to come to Chowan University and hang out with us. And that was cool. That was like 9 to 2, 9 to 1:30. And so we're kind of entertaining them, loving on them, hoping they're enjoying the university experience, 9th and 10th graders.
Mm-hmm.
Then had to run my car over to the car shop, had to take my wife home, all that, it's like normal life stuff. Then we have service at night. So my day, I know, is going to be 9 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
No rest. Cool. No problem. When I'm tired, when I wonder, like, man, are these services like, are they hitting? Like what's, I want to hear from students, all these things. Last night, I'm walking down the aisle and I just happened to notice a young lady, and I won't call out her name. It's okay. But like this one young lady who is socially significant at our university, like she attends events, she's on a sports team, she's involved. I've never seen her at service before. And I say, hey, how are you? Good. Yeah. Hey, so you're at service. This is awesome. Yeah, this is my first time. I've never been. And the whole time we've had services before I took over anything, she's never been to a service. And she said, I had a friend and she said she came to service for the first time this year. And I know her friend as well. And she said she wanted to go to service because she likes what's happening. She shows up at service. And funny moment, she apologizes for being Catholic. And I'm like, that's fine. Come as you are. Like, we're not particularly Catholic. So that's like, she felt like she had to apologize. But to me, it's so encouraging to know, like, if I ever wonder if when I'm tired, if when the day is long, is this worth it? There's one person where at least there's a small % chance that we just got through and got a little more Jesus into her life.
Come on.
And so what kind of impact will that be over time in her family, in her relationships? And they want to be there.
Come on.
Like that's the thing where I'm like, okay, this was worth my time.
Come on.
Right. And so that's what I'm talking about in terms of being fulfilling is the things that are happening now. The ways God moves can happen because I'm not stopping to be like, I want to spend my time on me. And so let me encourage everybody like that. It doesn't have to be about you. Go spend your time, and maybe it isn't. Maybe it's not, and that's okay. It's really worth it, especially when you pour it out for other people.
Come on.
So anyway, man, you got any more closing thoughts? Oof. I want you to pray us out too. So
good, man. So good. So my closing part is, if you stayed here for this entire podcast, right? You submitted your time to listening to two ordinary men who love God.
Yep.
But we have real problems and we do life, right? If you submitted your time to this, right? We are grateful that we get to do this. We're grateful, and we feel like this is such a good use of our time to share kind of our knowledge and our journey with God, with you, on topics that aren't normally talked about on Sunday morning. That's right. Lowercase Church is all about. Yep. So my push to you is to value the time that you have and use it to the best of your ability. And don't just go through life thinking you have all the time in the world.
That's real.
Invite people who will be accountable, who will hold you accountable. You be accountable to people to help them be better stewards of their time, and make the most of it. Because we don't know how much of this, this resource we have, but we want to be the best stewards of it.
That's right.
Thank you, because you just invested yourself in this. And I pray that it brings dividends into your life. I don't think we said one thing that would help you along your way, to help you use your time more wisely. And we appreciate you being here. So pray us out.
That's real. Thank you, man. You pray us out. I love it.
Heavenly Father, God, we thank you that we get to do this, Lord, that you give us the time to speak to the world on your behalf, God. Lord, I pray, Lord, that you help us to be better stewards of our time. Help us to see the moments as the blessing, as right now is a present, God, as a gift. And tomorrow, we don't know if we're going to get it, Lord. Help us to be grateful for what we have today. Help us to use what you've given us for your will and for your purpose, God. Lord, I pray today that somebody has experienced something, Lord, that sets their life on a different path, that wakes them up and lets them know that they don't have forever to do what you've called them to do. Help us to go after those things you've called us to do. And God, we'll give you all the praise and the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. It's awesome, man. So good. What a good time we just had. So anyway, that was bad. All right. We'll see y'all next time.
Next time. Let's go.
Yeah. Boom.